TNT Evilution's music is largely regarded as one of the first examples of a more experimental soundtrack compared to Doom and Doom 2, at least as far as the commercial games go. The year before TNT, though, you had Memento Mori with Mark Clem doing the soundtrack for that wad, and that music differed greatly from the original Doom and Doom 2 as well, in terms of composing / musical techniques. But that's a topic for another video. Most of the out-of-the-box tunes in TNT's music roster are attributed to Jonathan Albizri, with Leo Sieben kind of straddling the line between conventional and experimental here and there in a few of his tracks. But there's one track that's got me perplexed, and it wasn't written by either of those guys. It's this one. Yeah. Infinite by Tom Mustaine. It's a track normally you'd hear it once and think, alright, there's nothing really going on there. It doesn't use a lot of instruments. The most notable thing about it is what you just heard. It's that sawtooth part that we're all familiar with, that droning sound, and you also have the drums, of course, and then the backing strings. And about halfway through, you have this little bit with a reed organ, which sounds kind of creepy on its own. Let's go back and listen to it isolated. Yeah, you can hear there's a few different effects there. I'd been wondering what that instrument was for the longest time. It's one of those ones that I kind of forget about, like the reed organ. It's one of those instruments I kind of forget about every so often, just because maybe, I don't know, maybe I just haven't heard much of it being used, or just haven't really noticed it as of late. Let me ask you this, though. What time signature is this piece in? Let's try counting along, just in 4/4. Let's start there, and see how things sound here. Yeah, well, alright, that doesn't sound quite right. It feels like some things are kind of off every 4 beats. The notes aren't really hitting where mentally we're kind of expecting them to, right? So maybe if we count in double time, it'll line up a little bit better. So instead of 4, I'll just count twice as fast. It'll give us 8. So let's try it again. Nah, that doesn't really line up either. Still just some things are off. It seems like count doesn't really seem to mesh with, the rhythm of the notes. So let's count again, but this time let's do something a little bit different. Let's not think in terms of the traditional 4/4 or 8/4 or 8/8 if, you're counting in double time. Let's just count along and see what kind of feels the best, what kind of lines up the most correctly here. Yeah. It's not in perfect 4/4, it's something just a little bit off, something just a little bit different. I'm thinking this track either has to be in 15/8, which would be really wild, or it could alternate between 7/8 and 8/8, back and forth with each measure, but that wouldn't really make any sense from an efficiency standpoint. It's such a subtle characteristic. You'd almost never notice this time signature in-game unless you were actively listening to this track, because there just aren't any parts of it. There aren't really any parts of this MIDI that stand out musically. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's just that this track is pretty uniform throughout its runtime. You have a few rhythms and riffs, and that's kind of the whole thing. There aren't really any solos going on. Anyway, I bring all this up because I got a comment on my time signatures video from a while back asking about TNT Evilution MIDIs and if any of them were in odd time, and I replied no, not even thinking about this MIDI. I was only thinking of Legion of the Lost being in like 6/8. And then Cammy answered sometime after I had replied and clarified that yes, something is going on in Infinite. So props to him for pointing that out, because it got me thinking, oh, this would make for something interesting to talk about on here, especially since Infinite is normally a track you wouldn't really think about when it comes to experimental music in TNT. So what are your thoughts on this track? Have you noticed this before? This wowed me when I went back and listened to it again, and I'm still kind of dumbfounded by it, actually. Maybe someone has the answer and can explain it from a music theory perspective. We'll see. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up so that it can reach more Doom music fans out there, and be sure to subscribe. Your support to help grow this channel really means a lot and is really appreciated. And with that, I will see you next time.